Welcome to Let the Quran Speak. I'm Aisha, your host. In early September, as teachers and students were getting ready to head back to school, a headline hit the papers: Principal under investigation for anti-Muslim posts. This is just one example of Islamophobia on the rise. Let's sit down with Dr. Shabir Ally to review a guide for educators published by the Islamic Social Services Association and the National Council of Canadian Muslims. The guide aims to educate teachers on how they can help students dealing with trauma related to geopolitical violence and Islamophobia. Welcome to the show, Dr. Shabir.
Pleasure to be on.
So I know off air when we were talking about this guide, you said that you were so impressed by it that you were considering giving a khutbah or using it in your Eid sermon. What is it about the guide that struck you?
Well, it's obviously intended for educators, but I feel that Muslim parents need to read this guide as well, because as much as we're trying to tell educators this is what you need to watch out for in terms of the needs of Muslim children suffering either from post-traumatic stress disorder or just simply that they're reeling under the pressure of Islamophobia that is on the rise. Muslim parents themselves need to know this information so that in case they were not alert to the fact that children are going through this, they should be alert, should be aware, and they should know how to deal with their children who are suffering under these circumstances as well.
So can you walk us through the guide a bit? How is it organized? Who are the authors?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's prepared by the Islamic Social Services Association based in Winnipeg and also the National Council of Canadian Muslims based in Ottawa. It's entitled Helping Students Deal with Trauma Related to Geopolitical Violence and Islamophobia. It is a guide for educators. It talks a little bit about the Canadian Muslim youth and the current geopolitical environment, the fact that the situation is such that adults somehow manage. We know that's the situation and we manage well, but when children are faced with the kinds of things that we are faced with, they may react differently. An article from Michael Cisak published in the Globe and Mail illustrates that point very well, where he gathers stories of Muslim children and their reactions to some certain situations. For example, there's this girl in the United States of America who packed a bag with her Barbie doll, a jar of peanut butter, and a toothbrush. And then she double-checked the lock on her family door because she had the impression that the U.S. Army will come after her and her family and take them away somewhere. So she was preparing herself for that eventuality. And what sparked that kind of reaction, it was a comment from Donald Trump in which he spoke about the possibility of barring Muslims from entering the United States of America. Now, most of us will treat that and take it with a grain of salt, and we would probably figure, you know, he can't possibly do that because even if he rises to presidency, his plans and policies will still have to go through some kind of official scrutiny, and such a weird plan would be blocked somewhere along the line. So we have great hopes for the future, but a child may not be able to decipher all of this and may react in the way that this little girl, Sophie, reacted. Things like this are highlighted in the guide to make us all more aware of the manner in which the things that we may brush off as water on duck's back, in fact it does impact on us all, but we manage, it may impact more severely on children and they may not manage. And to help them manage, we need a guide like this.
And what does this guide specifically focus on? Because the Trump comment is obviously specific to the U.S., not that that doesn't feed into us, but this one, how does it focus on the Canadian context?
Well, more broadly, what is interesting that is pointed out in this guide is that there are two levels of trauma. There is primary trauma and also secondary trauma. So primary trauma is where the person is directly impacted by, let's say, violence. But the secondary trauma is experienced by those who are not directly impacted by the violence, but they relate to the people who are so impacted. And even the term vicarious identification is used here. So somebody vicariously takes on the suffering of the other. And that the impact on this secondary group can be, according to this study, as much as the impact on those who are directly impacted. So the secondary impact is almost as important for us to deal with as the primary impact.
And this also talks about Syrian kids that are going back to school now, right? From that lens as well?
True. Now that we have children who are here or with their parents who have acquired refugee status in Canada, children will be going to school. We have to be aware that some of them may be suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. They may have flashbacks to situations which they have experienced in the past. At the same time, the guide does an excellent job of pulling together some of the thoughts on the benefits that such children can bring to our society. The fact that they will want to repay kindness with kindness, for example. So these are things that could have been overlooked, and especially when boys and girls are in the playground. At school, they may jeer at each other, tease, and molest. We need to educate our children ahead of time. For this reason, I think that not only do Muslim parents need to read this guide, but I feel that non-Muslim parents need to read this guide as well, so that they can inform their children ahead of time, so that when the children go to school, it's not all left to the educators to impart the proper guidance and knowledge to our children, but all parents should help the children to understand the global reality in which we live, the diversity of people around the world, the melting pot that we have right here or a tossed salad that we have right here in Toronto with people of many different nationalities and backgrounds who have experienced many different things. Our children need to be aware of that so that they can respond with the kind of love and tolerance that Canada has taught us.
Do you think it's a good, because this is the first time I've seen a guide or a document that talks about geopolitical violence and also Islamophobia, so specifically focused on, Syrian children and that kind of thing. Do you think it's fair the way the guide represents them both almost at an equal playing field?
Well, it is a surprising juxtaposition when one encounters it at first, but in the end it all makes sense. It makes sense that all of this is part and parcel of a whole. Some people in our present circumstances use the Syrian refugee crisis as a kind of cover for their venting of Islamophobic comments. So, for example, somebody may say, well, we can't welcome Syrian refugees here because they will come with the Islamic baggage, which means that they would want political dominance on the world and things of this nature. So they would say that we're only speaking about this limited context of whether or not to welcome Syrian refugees. But the way this comes across is as if the speakers here have Islamophobia in the background, and they're just using this as a cover. And again, the way in which this impacts children when they hear of this is that the children will feel marginalized, demoralized. They will feel that they're not part of this society. They are strangers in their own land. And this can have a terrible effect on the children and their upbringing, their development as part of the social landscape in which we live.
Any areas where you think the guide could improve?
Yes, of course, this is an excellent first attempt, and it needs to be applauded and used and circulated widely. At the same time, if a second edition were to be done, I would recommend that where the problems are highlighted, there seems to be, like on page 3, a list of 12 issues here. These are the things that Muslim youth need. Well, I would rather group these into a fewer number of items with some subtopics, because many of the items are related. Likewise, towards the end where final tips are given for educators. Here too we have nearly a dozen recommendations. It seems that there is some bit of overlap and some of these could be grouped together. More substantially, I feel that this guide should not only be published from some Muslim organizations such as ISA in Winnipeg and NCCM in Ottawa, but towards the end there is a list of resources including anti-racism and human rights organizations. It would be great for us to take this guide to these organizations and ask them to endorse the guide, because what is prescribed in this humble booklet is not necessarily a Muslim thing. This is really about human rights and battling things like Islamophobia, which is the concern not only of Muslims, but in fact should be the concern of all of these human rights and anti-racism organizations which are mentioned here, and they should endorse the booklet, in which case the booklet will carry more weight and authority, and it will be all the more effective.
Always an enlightening discussion. Thank you very much, Dr. Shabir.
You're quite welcome.
Hey YouTube, we hope you benefited from this video. If you liked it, or if you didn't, let us know in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning more, check out some of our other videos. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.